Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining in on this episode of Mom Mode. Today, we have Lauren Nolan on the podcast, also known on Instagram as Lakeshore Lady. Lauren is based in Chicago, so I'm excited because I actually have somebody in my home state on the podcast. And so, Lauren, for those who don't know you, don't follow you yet, can you share a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I am, as you said, also known as Lakeshore Lady on the social media platforms. I started a blog, gosh, like 13 years ago, I think, when I moved
Wow.
back to Chicago. I was living in an apartment on Lakeshore Drive, and I called it Lakeshore Lady. And fast forward, and has been my career, my full-time job for the past I think we're coming up on 7 years now, which
Oh
is
my gosh.
crazy. And I just love my little corner of the internet so much, and it's been really fun to evolve with it, especially because I just became a mom in January for the first time. So sharing all of that experience, as you know, it's quite transformative. And so
Yeah,
being able to share that and kind of grow up with my audience has been just really, really special.
that is really special. I did not realize. I mean, I was going to ask, like, what do you do for work? Do you just do like the content creating? But it's more than the content creating, it's a whole blog. And you share a lot around fashion, um, different clothing for like petite style, right? I think you put on there
Yeah,
like petite
recipe
style.
style. I've gone in and out of recipe content. Right now, the recipe content that we're leaning into is sharing our weekly dinners because, life is not always Instagram perfect right now, but we are still
Yes,
cooking. So to give people ideas of real life things that we're putting together,
I love
that's
that.
kind of where we are with that. But yeah, sharing all kinds of stuff, just real life behind the scenes.
Yeah. And then, I mean, it's awesome because obviously you're sharing that with your husband, and I'm sure that shifted a lot, sharing the recipes, from now being a mom and a dad, because like you said, it definitely shifts a lot around. um, so that's amazing. So I was mentioning how at 37 you became a new mom. um, how how did that like change your life? And were you wanting kids? Did you meet your husband later? Like how how did that all come about with becoming a first time mom at 37? Not that there's anything wrong with that. I feel like that's like, it's a new norm. I mean, I had my daughter at 33. My next will probably be 35, maybe 37. But how has that been for you?
It's been amazing, honestly. I keep saying that I love it so much more than I ever thought. And that's not to say that I didn't think that I would enjoy it or that I wasn't looking forward to it. I just being somebody on the later end, I had so many friends and family members do this before me. And there's so many pros to that in terms of like knowing what you're getting yourself into and
Yeah.
hearing all of their wisdom. But there's also the element of like, I know too much.
Yeah,
Like,
that's very true.
like they've been able to confide in me and I've been able to hear how hard it is. And it's really important for women to support other women in how difficult that it is and be honest about that.
Yes.
But it also scared me. Like it just did. And so there was the element of wanting to be ready to feel like this is something that we can take on combined with the fact that I didn't even get married until I was 34. So I re-met my husband. We knew each other in high school, lost touch, met again when I was 29. We got engaged when I was 31, and then we planned on getting married. Like, I think it was supposed to be like a week and a half before my 33rd birthday, but COVID happened. So that pushed our wedding. And we were one of those couples that really wanted that wedding celebration. Like that was
Mm-hmm.
important to us. We were not the people who were like, let's just elope and move on with our lives. Like we wanted our friends and family there. We wanted that celebration and those memories. I wanted those pictures and videos of me in my wedding dress with my nana. Like those details were
Mm-hmm.
important to us. So we kept pushing it and I ended up getting married when I was 34. And then we also had to push our honeymoon, which was also very important to us because we were going to Italy. I'm very Italian. I had never been. It was a
Love that.
bucket list item for me. And I
Yes.
just kept saying, like, I don't want to be first trimester sick in this once in a lifetime trip with my husband, and I don't want to be even farther along and have my doctor say you can't go. And then what if I never go to Italy? That was just one of those
Yep.
things that I wasn't willing to compromise. Neither one of us were. So I celebrated my 35th birthday when we were in Italy. So really, kids weren't even seriously on the table until I was 35. So right away, that just pushes my timeline differently than I had anticipated when I was, like 25, and you have no idea how your life is going to pan out. So,
Absolutely.
so right away it was different. And then when we got back, there was just like, there were all kinds of difficult circumstances happening around us at that time that led us to have conversations of, are we financially, mentally, emotionally prepared to take this on?
Mhm.
Because we knew how hard that is. Like watching all those
Mhm.
people do it before us, we knew what we were getting ourselves into, and we knew that it was going to rock our worlds. We were
Yeah.
prepared for it. And so we kind of took our time figuring out when we wanted to take it on. And obviously that's not like the path for everybody. And anytime I talk about timelines, I inevitably get people bringing up fertility and like women's clocks and how like
Mhm.
don't tell people that they have time when they don't. Like I inevitably get that kind of pushback. And I just think it's interesting because that is so true. And I'm so sensitive to that because I know so many people who have gone through fertility issues. But it's also like I was a 35-year-old woman, childless, and I felt that weight so heavily all the
Mhm.
time. Every time we had the conversations about, do we want to do this? Are we ready? And we would push it a little bit longer.
Yep.
I would inevitably cry to my husband, being like, what if we're waiting too long? What if we're missing our chance? Like it felt like that messaging was all around me in an
Yeah.
inescapable way
I feel
that
that
it always
heavy.
it always surprises me then when people push me back when I'm just trying to tell other women to like, it's okay if your life hasn't panned out exactly the way you thought it would. It's gonna
Yep.
be okay. Like I feel like that's the messaging that's missing in our
And that's
society
such
more
a good
so,
message.
like, yeah, not everybody. Did I think my first child was gonna be at 37 when I was younger? No, but like that's
No.
the way the cookie crumbled for me. And
Mhm.
truthfully, I am happier than I've ever been. Like this has been the greatest blessing. Doing it at this time has made it so fun and joyful and if I was younger, getting those bills from the hospital would be really, really scary.
Mhm.
I'm 37. I could pay him. I knew exactly what was coming. Like there
Yep.
are pros and cons to both things. Um,
And I think there's something to be said about you listen like you and your husband really talking and like feeling if it was ready, like the right time. Like because there's that pressure and when I say I can relate with you, my husband and I are talking about like trying for another baby and I'm like I'm just not there. And I don't know why, but then I totally feel that pressure as well. Like you said, it's like it's unescapable. You have people asking you and then in your mind you're like, "Wait, what if it takes me time to get pregnant?" There's just so many voices in your own head. And I'm like, "But I'm not ready." And like bringing a life into this world is such a big deal. It is like the biggest thing that we will ever do. And so if you're not ready and like you and your husband weren't ready at that time, it's like good for you that you went with that because that is the most important thing.
well, and I just kept
Imagine doing
thinking.
it just because you felt pressure and then you weren't ready emotionally. The bills, like you said, like, and it's just going to like amplify the difficulties of parenthood times 10.
Because it's really hard. As wonderful
Mm-hmm.
as it's been really hard. And I had an emergency C-section that really, really rocked me because I felt really prepared for
Mm-hmm.
what birth was going to be. And then didn't go that way, and I had never had surgery before. So I woke up the next day like, oh my God, I can't bend over. I can't do anything. I need my husband to like literally help me put like pants on. Like it really, really rocked me. And I remember just thinking, like, as I would take deep breaths or just,
Mm-hmm.
take each day, day by day, I remember thinking, I'm so glad that I'm in a mental space. We both are in a mental space where we could both look at each other and say, this is what we wanted. We chose this. We are grateful for this. This is temporary,
Yep.
and we could really remember those things because otherwise, it's already hard. It would be really hard if you weren't sure, he wasn't sure, you both weren't sure. It's just a lot to
Yeah.
take on.
No, I love that thought process. And I think more women need to hear that because I know, I mean, just as society has changed and shifted, like people are getting married later, people are having difficulties meeting their spouses just because of where priorities are for the younger generation. And, women have that in the back of their minds. And, you don't want women to feel rushed into marrying somebody just to be like, okay, now the next step, now the next step, now the next step. It shouldn't be that way. These are like life chapters that are so beautiful to meet your spouse, to get married, to get pregnant. It should not feel rushed or feel like we have this clock ticking.
And I feel like because there are pros and cons to
Yep.
any age that you do this, right? But one of the major pros of doing it later, at least for me, is just there's so much gratitude. The weight
Mm-hmm.
makes us so grateful for it. It's like, wow, what a like truly for the risk of sounding corny, like what a miracle that we could bring a human life into our family. We're a family now, like
Yeah.
there's it it's been able to give us such a beautiful perspective on this time.
Yeah. And did you have like when you did start trying, did you have any issues or I mean, it takes time. Sometimes it doesn't happen in the first month. Um,
Totally.
but
I uh I was like very prepared to struggle. And so I went into like full research mode. Like I had my Aura ring, I connected that with natural cycles, taking my temperature, ovulation sticks, all the things. And it took us a few months, like you said, it doesn't
yeah,
always just happen at the snap of a finger, but we luckily did not have any issues, which I feel very, very grateful for. And it's it's funny because I have to remind myself that just because that was the case for the first one, I already want a second one, which just sounds crazy because I'm only
n-
4 months postpartum. But as I think about like, could we fit that in? Could we fit a second one in? I think about like it might not be as easy the second time. Like you really just never know with
no,
anybody, any age, you just never
yeah,
know.
no, it's all, yeah. Um, it's just, yeah, you just got to kind of go with what you're feeling. And I mean, on the reverse side, it can happen very quickly. So,
Oh,
I have friends that they struggled having a second. And then I have friends that like, oh my gosh, we weren't even trying. We can't believe it. We're pregnant, two under two. Um,
yeah.
so it's everyone has their own story. And so when it comes to, it's funny that you say you're on the 4 month period because I was very much at like the 3, 4 month mark. I was like, oh, we can do this again because my daughter started sleeping through the night. And I'm like, oh, we have sleep. Like we could totally do this. And then I don't know. I just got to a point where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, not that it's hard, like on me, but I just started enjoying the process and really seeing how quick it goes by. And then I'm like, wait, I don't want to share my time with any other babies right now. And that might sound really selfish, but I'm like, I just want to enjoy my daughter. Um, but then I'm like, I don't know. She's 18 months. And I mean, you're going to see when they go from 6 months to 12 months to 18, you're like, oh my gosh, where's time going?
It's
And it,
already like week to week, it's different. And oh my gosh, it's going by so fast. It's crazy how quickly they change and
yeah, they're
a
so
wild appearance.
self-sufficient too. Like it's wild. I'm like, okay, I just like make her a PB&J and she eats it, and she's like, I want my bottle. Okay, here's your bottle. Like and she's only 18 months old. So from 4 months to 18 months, that's not long.
No,
And they're like their own little human. It's incredible.
that's
Um,
wild.
Now with your, I know you said you kind of had a little bit of like trauma with your birth. So did you go into it with like this birth plan in mind, hoping to have a certain outcome? And then obviously it just went the complete opposite?
What's so funny is that I was really trying to go into it with an open mind. Like, I did not have a strict birth plan. My whole thing was let's listen to the professionals and get this baby out safely. And I didn't have any details written. I just, in my mind, I was convinced that a C-section just wasn't going to happen. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
My mind just never went to like mentally preparing for that. I had all the things for recovery of vaginal birth. Like I was in that headspace. But he just didn't want to come, so we had to induce. And after I don't even remember how many hours, I stalled at 8 centimeters, and then I got a fever. So
Okay.
that then I think there was an infection as well. It was all a blur, and the doctor came in and said we got to switch gears and do a C-section. I was shaking. It was all very, very scary. Um, and yeah, he like didn't cry right away either. So I'm like, laying there, didn't hear the crying, shaking. Like it was all just very traumatic. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, like, how do people sign up to do this again multiple times? Like, this is so scary. And then
Mm-hmm.
as soon as he was in my arms, I was like, yeah, I get it. I
And
get
now
it.
you get it.
I
Oh,
get it. It's just worth it.
I
It sounds
know.
insane. Sounds insane to even talk about everything that happened and then think I would do it again, but you just love them so much right away.
I
It's
agree.
it's so overwhelming. It,
Mm-hmm.
it's and it's so hard to describe to anybody who hasn't experienced that, like the pregnancy feelings, and like it was the most insane experience. All of it was the most insane experience
I
of my
know.
life.
I remember
Yeah.
just being like, these doctors are insane. Like, here I go to, like, before ever being pregnant, we go to our OB for our annual checkups, right? And I'm like, never in my mind did I think this man right here, or woman, I have a guy doctor. At any point, he can get a call like, hey, you need to deliver a baby. Oh, it's not coming out, C section. And then he's in surgery. Um, my mind was like blown for like weeks. I'm like, because when I was in the hospital, I had a C section and my doctor had like twins, a woman with twins in labor. Then he had two scheduled C sections. And then here we're trying to get me to progress and I'm not progressing. And he's like, well, we can do, I think at this point we need to go to a C section. And I was like, well, when would we do that? And he's like, right now, because I have
Yep.
two others. I have this woman in labor, this woman in labor. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's so calm. He's
So
so
calm.
calm.
I kept repeating to myself, I had a similar experience. It was like, so when does this happen? Literally right now.
Yeah.
But
And
I
you're
kept
like,
repeating,
okay.
yeah, I kept repeating to myself, they do this every day. They do this all the time. To them, this is like, it's obviously a big deal because it's a life, two
Yeah.
lives, but for them, it's just not scary. To them,
Mm-hmm.
it's their job and they know how to do it and they're going to do it to the best of their ability. And I just kept repeating that to myself like, this is normal for them. This is normal for them to
Mm-hmm.
try to keep myself calm because to me, it was anything but normal.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And like, I had a, I feel like I had a similar but different mindset to you. I had, went in, did not know what, didn't have a birth plan in mind, didn't have anything written down. I was the same way, like just have me and the baby be healthy. I went in at 37 weeks so that I got preeclampsia. And so I was not dilating. And in the back of my mind, I was like, my mom never dilated and my mom had three C sections. So in my mind, I had like, okay, a C-section is definitely possible, but I rather not go that route. So that was
Mhm.
like my voice in my head. And then finally, when I was at like 30 hours and I wasn't even at a one. And I just looked at my doctor and I'm like, my mom never dilated and she was full term. I'm like, I understand I'm early. My mom was full term, never dilated and had three C-sections. He's like, okay, this makes a little more sense. And I was like, yeah, I didn't want to say that. I'm like, but with where we're at, like, when would we do a
Yeah.
C-section? And yeah, so, and, you know, there was like a split second in my mind where I was like, oh man, like I would have loved to experience the vaginal birth. Like I love hearing women talk about their experience. I think it's so beautiful.
And what's so crazy is that it always terrified me so much. That was part
Yeah.
of what scared me about taking all this on. I was always afraid of giving birth. And I got through the balloon induction. I was dilating. I got the epidural, which I was scared of a lot of this.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, I
and
was too.
I was feeling like a rock star. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I can do this. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember when they were like, I think when they told me I was 7 centimeters, I was like, already? I can do this. I'm going to be pushing in a few hours. I'm going to meet my baby. I got this. And it was the first time in my life that I felt like I can do this. And then just, oh,
Yep.
everything changed.
But like what's crazy about C-sections? So you said you were in a lot of pain. Don't you think it's wild how quickly our bodies heal?
Insane. I remember thinking while I was in the hospital, how am I going to do this? How am I going to take care of a newborn while I like can barely walk? I can barely bend. How is this possible? Um, and first of all, adrenaline is a real thing. New mom adrenaline is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And take the drugs that they give you, in my opinion.
Yes.
But I remember every day it was a little bit better. And then I think it was week 2 that I just like started walking at a more normal pace. And I was able to like shower a little bit more comfortably. And then everything got easier. And by like 4 weeks, I was like, I'm pretty good. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's crazy. I just had a major, major surgery and I've had like no real time to rest. And
Mm-mm.
my body healed. It's unbelievable.
I agree.
Our bodies are, I mean, just the whole pregnancy and then also postpartum, but more so pregnancy gave me such an appreciation for my body that I've never had my whole life of just, I can't believe that it is capable of doing this. And why would I ever pick it apart when it is giving me this?
Mm-hmm.
It was such a beautiful mindset shift in how I view this body that I live in, you know?
No, I agree. I know. I'll look at like my scar and I mean it's like barely there. It's wild to me. But I
Mine
look at
already
it and
feels so good. So much.
I'm like, this is where my baby came out. This is
Mhm,
so incredible.
mhm.
And I also like have such an appreciation for C-sections. I mean, I think any way that anyone's baby comes into this world is beautiful. We made babies. Eh, for 9 months, those babies, like it's wild to think. Like I look at myself now and I'm like, I still can't believe I had a baby in there at one point.
I look at
Do you ever get
him
that?
and I think I can't believe you were inside of me. Like, how is that? Like, my brain can't compute that that's where he came from.
I
We're
know.
looking at him in front of me. That's no, you can't. You
It's
came a different
wild. Um, so not to shift gears, but how when like when you got pregnant, I know like recently when I saw my doctor and he's like, okay, you're gonna be 35, you're gonna be geriatric.
way.
How was that for you? Like, I mean, did they obviously when you had your first appointment, like, hey, you're considered geriatric high risk? I mean, did they like amplify that and like make you feel like uncomfortable and like kind of like, in this other category, or was it pretty like, okay, we have to tell you this, but you're good?
It was more, we have to tell you this. I tried to always laugh at it a little bit, make it a little bit of a joke. Like, I know I'm on the older side, and I luckily had um like the nurse practitioners that I saw the majority of the time, they were so lovely, and they would joke with me about treating women who are years older than me. Um,
Mhm.
my chiropractor actually found out she was pregnant the same week that I was. Surprise pregnancy. I think she was like 44.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so when you live in a city, you hear about older moms
Yes.
everywhere. So that was really helpful for me. Um, but I also I really wanted to feel as good as possible so that almost like as like a slap in the face to that geriatric label. Um, and it worked. Like the first trimester was tough because of sick feelings, and
Yep.
um, we had NIPT tests come back inconclusive multiple times, which caused a lot of anxiety for me. We think it might have to do with a fibroid that I have. Long story, but we ended up needing to do an amniocentesis, or it was recommended that we do an amniocentesis to make sure that he was okay.
Is
So
that when they do the
basically,
needle into your
uh,
in your stomach?
yeah.
Was that
So
uncomfortable?
yes, very uncomfortable, but very short. And we had an amazing doctor that was like so confident that, again, I told myself, he does this, he's done this a million times. It's
Mhm.
going to be okay. And then it was over. And the results were great. Nothing was wrong with him. Um, so basically, dealing with like sickness and anxiety up until that point, I think we got the results back from that around week 16. And after that, it was like I turned a corner with sickness. I felt so great pretty much until the end of my pregnancy. Like, obviously, you have symptoms and, like, like your back might hurt a little bit or you get tired going upstairs or that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I felt so great that it was such a nice, people say like, oh, if you're older, it's so much harder and all that stuff. And it's like, I feel great. So you know what? You can take that label and take it somewhere else
Yeah.
because it felt so validating to enjoy it at this age and to share that I legitimately enjoyed it
Mhm.
even after the 7. So yeah, again, women who feel like that pressure, it's like it is possible to have healthy pregnancies and to be healthy and to feel good even as you age. Obviously, there are complications and stuff to be aware of. I'm not trying to diminish that stuff, but it
Yeah.
is possible to have a good experience. And it also makes me more confident if we do decide to try again, that if I'm 39 or 40, who's to say I couldn't have another good experience if I take care of myself and, stay active and
Yep.
keep that keep that positive mindset.
I was going to just say, like, I feel like it's so much your mindset. Like, you seem to be so positive. You seem to be at peace with your decisions. Um, you're in a good place with your husband. You were in a good place with your, career. Like, when things line up like that and the stress is limited, you feel good, your mindset's healthy. Like, I just feel like that speaks to having a healthy pregnancy just in general, no matter how old you are or young. Um,
Totally. And
you could
I,
be
I
young
know
and be super stressed and have like a way difficult pregnancy.
totally. And there are obviously things like I'm forgetting what the name of it, but there are like conditions where people are legitimately sick their whole pregnancy, and like
Oh,
that's a
yeah.
whole different thing.
Yep.
But I do think that like lowering your stress, keeping moving, keeping a positive mindset, all of that stuff does, like you said, have an effect on how you move through all of these different phases. If you're constantly telling yourself, like, oh my God, I'm so big and gross, then you're probably going to feel really big and gross. If you tell
Hmm.
yourself, oh my God, I'm growing our baby inside of me and I just felt him kick, how cool is that? Then your mind is automatically going to shift a little bit more towards gratitude
Yep.
instead of everything that's uncomfortable or wrong?
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Um, I was gonna say, like, I feel like that's something that I'm even learning right now. Like, going from being in the corporate world to now being a stay-at-home mom, I've been getting dressed now every day and trying to do my makeup. And, even if I put jeans on and a cute top, I'm like, I feel so much better mentally than if I'm walking around in leggings or sweatpants, or just stay in my pajamas. I like make it like a thing to get my daughter dressed, get me dressed, and just get moving. And I feel like I have just such a better day. Um,
Totally. And then also when you have the days when like you can't get out of pajamas, you're like, you know what, I
yeah.
need this.
Yeah,
And you
no.
take it.
Then those make the pajama days feel really good because you're like, okay, I don't do this all
Right?
the time. I'm gonna have a pajama day.
I deserve this. I deserve a chill day where I know nobody's gonna see my face.
Yeah. No, yeah. It totally makes it better. With you living in the city, I don't know, like, are you guys in a condo? Do you have stairs? How do you manage, while you were pregnant, like getting out, walking, depending on like what your living circumstances, and then now having your son, does that make it difficult for you at all? Or do you love it because you can also just walk anywhere that you want?
So luckily, we had the foresight when we bought our condo to look for a place with an elevator, which I'm very happy that we thought of that. Because that has made it infinitely easier with a stroller.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it didn't really affect pregnancy at all. That was no big deal with stairs. And it was great because it did force me to walk places. If I didn't want to go for a walk, just to walk, I could say, okay, I'm going to walk to the grocery store today, or I'm going to walk to do this other errand today,
Yeah.
which was a great way to just like force myself to be active.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Charlie now, like I said, I could either put him in a carrier or we can use the elevator to bring the stroller out. Honestly, the hardest part is having a dog. And I love our dog so much, but I was not anticipating how much she was going to overstimulate me and how difficult it would be to walk with both of them, or if she needs to go out when I wasn't anticipating and I'm feeding him or putting him down, that that juggling that has been surprisingly more difficult than I guess I just wasn't prepared for that. So yeah, we're already kind of daydreaming about a yard, but we luckily have some outdoor space. We can't let her out on there to go to the bathroom, but
Mm-hmm.
um we will have that outdoor space like this summer just for playing and stuff, which is a really nice perk for city life that a lot of
Yeah.
other people don't. Um, but yeah, it's I'm a certified city girl. I have lived in the city since I graduated college, either in New York or Chicago. And for the first time in my life, I'm starting to consider, oh, I kind of know why people move to the suburbs now. I'm starting to get it more. Um, motherhood shifts you a whole lot.
Yeah, no, having a dog is like that's a big deal. We have two, and I totally know what you mean. Like, and it's hilarious because their needs are when your baby needs you the most too. Like,
Or like
and
when she barks, is right when he goes down for a nap, and it's like,
I know, I know. I'm the same way. I'm like, be quiet. You're gonna wake the baby. We have
exactly.
two, which I would say like not to convince you to get more dogs. But we we do find like I had my poodle before I even met my husband. Um, and I'm like, I don't know, like if we didn't have another dog, I think he would totally probably be like eating stuff in our house, because I haven't been able to give him attention. Um,
Yeah,
and so we are very thankful that we have two, because it's helped keep, giving him a buddy.
yeah.
Because, my attention's shifted and they do get so used to like, oh, wow, mom and dad, and so that I agree with you. Actually, when we were just on vacation, we were in Florida and, we didn't have the dogs. And I was like, wow, I love our dogs so much, but it's so nice to not have to like wake up, feed them. My daughter's looking at me like, I want a bottle. And my dogs are looking like, we need to eat. Come on, lady,
Yeah,
let's get going. And I'm like, it's just
totally.
less pressure. It sounds so silly,
It
but
sounds so silly, and I never want to. make it seem like I don't love her anymore. We're so happy she's here, but it's that extra layer of another thing that you need to take care of that needs
Yeah.
your attention, like you said. Um, and yeah, just the ability to like let her out instead of put a leash on her would be really, really nice.
I know. We don't have that because we can't have a fence where we live. And I don't want to do the electric fence thing because, like, I don't know, there's like coyotes and there,
A
we're in like,
physical fence is going to be like a big thing on my list.
yeah. Oh,
If,
yeah. A nice fenced yard. You can open up like a back door and just, yeah. I know. We dream of that too. I mean, we're in the suburbs, but we don't have that and we dream of that right now. Um, because I'm like, oh, that'd be so much easier. Um, and I mean, honestly, when you do start, not to convince you to move to the suburbs anymore, but when, Charlie's walking, wanting to go outside, I mean, to be able to just go outside and have your yard or have your driveway. I mean, that's one of my daughter's like favorite things to do now is go outside.
Totally. And that's what's really nice about having, we have like a large patio area,
Mm-hmm.
that's like very unique for being in the city. And it's
Yeah.
right off our land. So we'll be able to go out there. Um, and we're hoping to do like all the fun city summer things this summer
Oh,
too,
yeah.
like swimming in the lake and street festivals and, all that kind of fun stuff to take advantage
And the
of.
zoo. The zoo
And
is like one of our favorite places to go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The zoo and the lake are like the big ones.
Yeah. And like, you don't think that, they're not going to remember. They're not going to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember when I was 12 months old and you took me to the zoo. But it's still like developing them and they're seeing the animals or they're like touching the water. And I don't know. It's just so beautiful. And it's just
Well,
amazing as
when
parents.
people say that, like they're not going to remember, I think they're forgetting that, like, I will remember.
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
remember that moment of bringing him to places that we love or to watching him see something or experience something for the first time. Like those are
Yep.
special moments for us as parents, too. I think people forget that sometimes. And obviously, if you're talking about like spending thousands and thousands of dollars in Disney World, that's a different
Oh,
conversation.
yeah.
But
That's
like,
different. Yeah.
most of the time, it is free. So.
No, I agree. I mean, yeah, but there's so many fun, like the Shed Aquarium. I mean, I feel like there's so
Field
many.
Museum. We went to the Field Museum just a few days before he was born as like our last like date
Mm-hmm.
before having a baby. And we just walked around talking about like how cool it'll be to bring him there one day. And so I can't wait for that moment.
Oh, that's
He's
going to be so special.
yeah.
We brought our daughter to the zoo for the first time at like, I want to say 8 months. And like,
Yeah.
she like was pointing at the elephants. Like they are aware somewhat. Like, and that's why I'm like, I don't care what anyone says. I'm doing this.
Oh yeah, I will be right there with you.
Yeah. Um, as far as I know that you said you and your husband are now cooking together again. Like, obviously, like, is that something that you really enjoyed before having Charlie was like making dinners together? And now that you're adjusting to parenthood, you're kind of able to reintroduce some of those things back.
Totally. I mean, I've always been I love cooking. It's been something that like my mom and my nana taught me how to do, and that's been a big pillar of Lakeshore Ladies, starting it all those years ago. And then, like I said, like different iterations of how I present food and stuff. Um, but it's been fun to bring him into it because I'm the one who really like has the relationship with cooking,
Mm-hmm.
and I've always kind of taken the lead on it because of that. But, becoming a mom, as much as he wants to help, sometimes the baby needs me or I want to be with the baby. That's something I didn't realize either. Like
Mm-hmm.
the the want to be the one to comfort him or stuff like that. Like there's a like primal desire there.
Yep.
And so he's really taken initiative to learn how to help me in the kitchen more, take over some recipes or help me make so that we can make them together and it feels a little bit like, oh, we're doing something as a family together, which is really, really nice and a good way for us to stay connected.
Yeah.
Um, and just like sharing the load, being able to feel like, okay, if we had a long day, making dinner, cleaning up dinner, all like that's not all on me. That's something that we share together.
Mm-hmm.
Has been really, really nice. And being
Yeah.
able to then share that is fun. It's been like a really fun way to get back into the work groove because I'm self-employed, like I didn't have a traditional maternity leave. I had to just kind of figure out like what do I want to share, what don't I want to share, what do I have time to share? It's very
Yeah.
tricky. So I've been trying to think of ways to bring people into things that we're already doing. And so that's been like a fun way of doing that.
Yeah, I love that. I've seen you post that a couple times and I love that. And it encourages couples to, bond. Like that's a really big piece is, as we become parents, like we still are married to our spouses. And it's so important to remember that. And, what's more special than your child growing up watching their parents still be connected and be in love? I think that's such a beautiful thing.
I think it's so important. It's something that's really, really important to me to maintain that connection. And honestly, it's a reason why we did take that time in between getting married and deciding to have a baby to really make sure that our relationship was where we wanted it to be, but also that we just could enjoy the newlywed phase. I feel like
Hmm.
that's something that if you meet your partner younger, you can have that and still have babies young. But if you meet your partner later, there's this pressure to skip that. And the newlywed phase is so fun. It's such like I have such amazing memories of that time going on our honeymoon, going to concerts, going to other people's weddings, going on group trips with our best friends, like doing all of those things, feeling like we were really living life as just a married couple without anything
Hmm.
else. So that then once we got to this phase, it was like, okay, we're ready. And we don't feel like we're missing out. We don't feel like we're sacrificing. And this is where we want to be. We want to be here with our son. Um, because I think it could be hard if you feel like, oh, well, I do want to do all those things, but I have this baby, or I don't really know who I am or who our relationship, like what our relationship is and how it works and how we get through difficult situations. And now we have this baby to take care of, and that takes priority instead of all of those other life experiences and self-exploration and deepening your relationship. Those it was I mean, it was really only like a year and a half, but it was like a really, really special year and a half, you know?
Oh no. It's interesting because my husband and I, we met at 30. Well, I was 30, got engaged at 31, got married at 32, had our baby at 33. And so it all happened so fast and it was so exciting. And we bought a house somewhere in there.
Oh my God. All
So
the life zones.
literally everything happened in like 3 or 4 years. And there's times when we like look back and it's like, I mean, we're so happy we did it all, but there's times when we're like, wow, remember those like 6 months where we actually met and dated and enjoyed, like the apartment living, like being just together? Because we felt like sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, we like moved quick, which like was perfect for us. We wanted to move quick. We just let life happen. But we
Because
also are
everybody
like, it was
was
so much at once. And we wouldn't change a thing, but I would have loved to have or maybe enjoyed a little more. We felt such pressure after getting married to get pregnant because I already felt like, oh my gosh, I'm 32. Like I felt that pressure at 32. So then I'm like,
I
okay,
mean,
we have to get
obviously,
pregnant.
it's something that I actively fought against up until we decided to do it. Like, but at 32, I felt it too already, and I was engaged. I wasn't even married at that time.
Yep.
So
See, and
it's
now I
something
feel
that
like I'm doing now what you did with my second before we start trying. I'm like, no, I'm not ready. Listen to that. You're going to be fine. If anything, you have one beautiful little girl. Like, I at least have one, and that is so special. So I'm like, hey, if for some reason and you never know, maybe it will take me a while. Maybe I can't have another. You never know. But I'm listening just like you did to yourself. And I'm just like holding on to that and being like, there's maybe reasons for that, or maybe I need to enjoy this time with my husband. Like now that our daughter is getting a little more self sufficient, let's enjoy our life now with our daughter. And then we'll
well,
choose when we can add more.
and enjoy those moments with your daughter. Like you said, you've had those feelings of like not wanting to share her. Like every phase of life is so special, and that's why I
Mhm.
feel so passionately about sharing, like, your timeline is your timeline and my timeline is my timeline, and both of them are beautiful and wonderful in
Yeah.
different ways. And if we all try to fit into that same thing, then all it's going to do is make one person feel inadequate about one thing and another person feel inadequate about the other thing. And
I
like,
couldn't
what
agree
good does
more.
that do? You're going to wake up one day and think, why did I waste that time when I could have been happy? And
Yep.
like, especially when it comes to women, I feel like men just don't feel this. And I was part of, like, when I would cry to my husband being like, what if we're running out of time? It's like that didn't even cross his mind most of the time because he's a man. But there's a whole lot of like wanting to put women into boxes, whether you're childless or talking about your second or anything. There's like a you're either like a trad wife or you're a career woman, or like there's so people don't society as a whole just doesn't leave a lot of room for nuance when all of this entire conversation is so nuanced. There's so many reasons why somebody doesn't have a baby yet, or doesn't have a second baby yet, or doesn't want a baby, or is having trouble having a baby, or suffered from a loss, or is working through emotional stuff, or doesn't feel financially right. Like there's so many different factors
Yeah.
when you really think about it. And it's so easy to just generalize when you just don't know what every woman's story is and what has panned up to this point. And so I think like just giving like this whole experience has only made me more passionate about telling women to like take a deep breath. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Everything's going to work out as it should. Just because I think people thought like, oh, I'd become a mom and just solely think like I should have done it sooner. All of you were right.
Mhm.
But really, would I have this experience? Would I be this happy? Would I have this baby, this particular baby that I love and am obsessed with so much if I had done it earlier? Who knows? And
Mhm.
would I have this perspective? And yes, it would have been great to do it earlier, especially since now I feel like I would love to give him sibling. I don't want any more than one more. But I would love to give him a sibling. But life is full of woulda, coulda, shouldas, You just have to
Yeah.
take each little step, figure out what's right for you, and take it as it comes instead of wishing that things were different, you know?
I could not agree more. And like it needs to be like announced to everyone that because it's so important to just look within and just love where you're at in life and don't put those pressures on yourself and don't wish you were in another place. Like there's so many moments where I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like even right now I'm like I'm living the life that in my 20s I wished for.
Ugh.
And so just enjoy this for what it is because we shift into these new chapters in life without even really realizing it. And then, like if I had another baby, it's like that's a shift. That's a new chapter. That is no longer me, my husband, and my daughter. That is I am pregnant. That is I need to take care of myself. I'm not going to be able to give my daughter the same attention that I can give right at this exact moment. And I feel like as soon as that happens, then I'm out of this chapter that I'm loving so much. And so we just have to hold on to those moments, I think, a little longer and just trust that what we feel is what's right instead of feeling like we have been saying, the societal pressures. Um,
Yeah, listen to what your gut is telling you instead of all the noise around you.
yeah. I mean, it's crazy. Like, I mean, you seem to have such a positive experience. And it's beautiful to see. Like you're only 4 months postpartum and you are like online doing your thing, being an amazing mom, rebonding with your husband. Like it's really special. And it's so great that you're sharing that. Um, with
I think because of that, like I was so scared beforehand that
yeah.
sharing positive is important to me because I feel like we went through a phase as society of like motherhood is amazing and the only thing. And then women realized, oh my God, it's really hard and nobody warned me. And then we got
Mhm.
to a place of, okay, everyone can talk about how hard it is, but now it's scaring people.
Yeah.
So there's like I said, there's pros and cons to everything. That's one of the pros and cons. And so I feel like because I have had such a positive motherhood experience, sharing that is just as important as somebody who's dealing with postpartum depression, sharing that reality too. There are so many different realities and experiences, and to be able to show all of those things, the wide range of what motherhood can be, I think is really important. You know, if you only see that people are miserable, then you're going to be like Chappell Roan on the Call Her Daddy podcast saying that like all moms are miserable.
Yep.
If you only see that it's beautiful and wonderful, then you're going to be shocked when you get home from the hospital and you haven't slept in 3 days and you're like, is this forever? So
Yes.
you
I
need to
agree.
have, you need to be able to see all of those things, and I think that also helps you realize that both the negative and positive are going to flow and change and intersperse with each other. And it can help you appreciate the positive, it can help you get through the negative. And that's something that, because I was personally one of those people who was scared, I
Mhm.
feel like I really want to share, like, hey, just so you know, this can be awesome. This can be like the best thing I've ever done. And I wasn't really prepared for it to for me to say that so firmly. I was
Yeah.
more prepared for, this is great and I'm so glad I did it, but it's really, really hard. And it is hard. And I don't shy away from sharing that, it's difficult and it tests me, but it's also like magical.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's all the things. I know. I'll have like a really hard day with my daughter and then I put her down and I'm like, wait, I miss her. Like I want to go get her
And
from
I like
bed.
go through my phone and look at photos or like
I know. I
zoom in
literally
on the
scroll and I'm
cat
like,
and look at
wait.
our little things.
I'm like, can I just go give her a hug? And my husband's like, no, you're going to wake her up. I'm like, all right.
Absolutely do not wake her.
Yeah. Um, so as far as now, like keeping Lakeshore Lady going, and obviously like that's been what you've done for the last 7 years. How do you feel that you're able to juggle now being, a mom and now starting to like reintroduce, working back into the mix?
It's hard. Um, Luckily my husband is self-employed too, so we can kind of share the load in a way that feels very supportive for me. So if I like have a partnership that I need to shoot, or like this, for example, he is
Yeah.
watching him, he is very visible. It is really nice to not feel like I need to give him any notes or instructions. He knows exactly how to take care of him. So that's been very helpful, but it's hard. It's I'm constantly trying to just give myself grace of figuring out, I'm only one person. What does he need? What do I need to get done? How can I keep this going in a way that um is keeping my mental health in a good place and not feeling
Hmm.
like I need to do too much, but also do enough to keep it going and pay our bills and all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you seem to be doing a really great job. And honestly, like, please keep sharing. It's so important, I feel like, for moms to see, like you said, like the different sides of motherhood. That's one of the reasons why I started the podcast. Was I went through a really tough phase where like I was like not knowing who I was. Um, and I'm like, I wonder if all moms go through this, or is it just me? Like, cause it is so isolating sometimes. Um, and so that's when I'm like, I want to like connect with moms. And it's been so fun. It's been so beautiful. At the end of the day, like whoever I talk to, I'm like, we're all just doing our best to show up for ourselves, our
We're all just
families.
figuring it out. Like, it's been so nice to pop a question in my Mom Talk broadcast channel of like, is anybody else's child like not sleeping at naps? Or like, what swaddle do you use when they're busting out of the one that goes across their arms? Or and be able to throw stuff out there and have other moms be like, oh, yep, I went through that. And it just
Yeah.
reminds you that you're not alone. Like, we're all just doing our best. We're all just trying to figure out how to be this new version of ourselves and how to best take care of this little human that we brought into the world. And the more sense of not feeling alone, I think the better for all of us. There's only benefit there.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Um, so for the moms that are, or not for the moms, I'm sorry, for the women, or I guess for moms, because there could be moms that had their first baby really young. And, they might be approaching middle age 30s or even, older than that. What advice can you give to them about the pressure that society puts on us to have kids super young? Or like that, like fast, like if a mom is there feeling just like, okay, we should try to have a baby because of my age, like what advice would you give to that mom or that woman?
Um, I guess I just always come back to everybody's timeline. It's okay if everybody's timelines look different. There is no rule that says that everybody needs to be married by 28 and have their first baby by 30. And like, even if that's what everybody else is doing around you, that doesn't mean that that's what you need to do. So the more that you can trust the timing of your life, I think that part goes towards like if you haven't found the right partner or if you don't feel ready or those kinds of things. But also like really figure out who you are in any phase of life. Obviously, the trenches of newborn, you're not really going to figure out who you are, you're just surviving.
No.
But any other phase of your life, really connect with yourself as often as you can. What do I need? What would make me happy? What does make me happy? What makes me unhappy? What stresses me out? How can I make things better for myself? Because the more you know yourself, the more you know your relationship and how that works and how you get through difficult things, the more you're going to be able to trust that intuition within you. And that's what's going to tell you, okay, this is telling me, like this noise from society is telling me this, but I'm feeling this. Okay, how do I deal with that? And I think also some people, I always just put off any fertility tests because I felt like we're gonna start soon. We're gonna start soon. Like
Hmm.
I always put it off. But if you are somebody who's very anxious about that, go to a fertility specialist or get it checked out and see what you're working with. Give yourself that information to say, okay, this is what I'm working with. So this is a realistic timeline of what I'm working with. Sometimes some personalities just work really well with data, and having that data might help calm you a little bit, or might say, okay, let's freeze my eggs, or, there's so many different things depending on how old you are, if you've met your partner, if you feel ready. Um, but ultimately, like just getting to know yourself as best as you can and listening to what you need. I knew that this was going to rock me, and I knew that I needed support in a country that isn't really built to support us. So I knew that I needed to set those things up for myself in order to be this mom, in order to be this calm and grateful. I needed to make sure that my bank account was ready for those high medical bills, that I was in a place where I felt established in my career enough that I could take some time and figure out how to approach work now. I knew that I wanted my relationship to be in a really great place so that this was like so magical and special, and we weren't worried about like, are we rushing this? We knew we wanted this. Both of us wanted this equally. It wasn't one person or another.
Yep.
Um, I mean, the more you can get to know yourself and listen to yourself, I think that's the best thing that you can do. Because some random person on the internet or some like boomer who said this is how we did it, like they don't know you. You know you, you know?
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. And to quickly add, I totally agree with you with going to the fertility specialist or just go to your OB, see where your blood levels are at for everything, like see the health of your body. Because if if you're that woman that you're waiting to find your spouse, you can start at least preparing your body. So then when you do meet that person, you're like, I'm good to go. I'm ovulating. I have a regular period. I'm healthy. Because there's
Mhm.
so much that could be done, while you're in that waiting period.
Totally. Yeah. Like I got off the pill. I made sure that I had an understanding of my cycle. Like those types of things are a great thing to do before you're actually like gung ho about it?
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. Well, it was so nice having you on the podcast. I've literally really enjoyed our conversation. And I'm so excited to share this. And I hope a lot of moms listen to this and can really relate and just feel inspired and maybe have a little bit of peace come to mind and come into their hearts when they hear that they don't need to rush. They just need to go at their own pace.
Yeah. Thanks so much. This was so nice.
Yeah, I'm really happy that we met.